let's get acquainted. My name is Kilzor. Today I'm going to present you with a short, tentative story. If you like the material, then show me this. Give it a like and I'll see if this demo tickled your nerves a bit. I'll get enough and I'll give you a new, more colorful story. Enjoy listening, my listeners. This story took place on a cloudy July evening when one of the hikers got separated from his group and wandered deep into an unknown, dense, dark forest. David, the name of our lost friend, had already lost all hope of getting out of this forgotten place. The longer he tried to get out of this thicket, the deeper it drew him in. Our traveler had already lost all hope. He also remembered that according to the stories of one of his acquaintances, this forest was shrouded in mystery. All who were lost in it did not return home. Even more frightened him that, according to rumors, there was a mental hospital which was closed a century ago. In the darkness, David fumbled for something remotely resembling a fence, flimsy and rusty. Looking through his backpack, he found a flashlight, and for the first time in the whole journey was heard a soothing sigh. But turning it on and pointing forward, David's blood began to boil with fear, because before him was the same abandoned mental hospital, surrounded by a dark atmosphere and secrets. For many years, no one dared to approach this gloomy place where, as the legend said, dwelt the souls of dead patients and sinister forces. Our hero had nothing to do but to penetrate through the rusty bars and found himself inside this god-forsaken and despair-soaked building. The walls of the hospital were covered with dust and secrets, and the air was saturated with the smell of horror. David was not going to just sit in this building. He wanted to find out its secrets. He continued on his way through the corridors, feeling a strange sensation as if he was being watched by invisible eyes. Footsteps sounded louder in this silence, and he felt that something unknown was waiting for him in the dark corners. Finally, he found himself in front of a locked door, behind which legends said held the worst secrets of the asylum. David decided to open the door and entered a room filled with dark energy. In the corner, he saw an ancient journal with the records of patients whose stories were full of fear and madness. He read every page, immersing himself in a world of dark secrets and mental disorders. But suddenly, he felt that he was not alone in this room. Shadows began to move on the walls, and in the corner appeared the ghostly form of a woman in a white dress. She whispered something unintelligible and slowly approached David. Fear gripped him, but he could not take his eyes off the ghostly form. The next moment he was in another place, in another time. The asylum came alive before his eyes, and he saw the patients struggling with their own demons and fears. He realized that this was not just a place of treatment, but a place where the worlds of reality and nightmares converged. David realized that he needed to get out of this nightmare. But how? He ran through the corridors, but the doors were closed and shadows chased him at every turn. Suddenly, he heard the whisper of a woman's ghost, which told him the way to escape. Following the ghost's instructions, David found his way out of the asylum and made his way out into the light. He looked back and saw the abandoned asylum disappear into the fog, leaving only mysterious traces in his memory. At that moment, he met the search party that was looking for him. Since then, David has never ventured near that dark place again. But his heart remains filled with the fear and terror he experienced that day. The cure remained forgotten in the forest, but its secrets continued to live in his heart. However, after David left the cure, strange events began to happen around him. He began to see ghostly figures of patients, hear whispers and moans at night, and his dreams became filled with nightmarish visions. He realized that the souls of the dead patients were haunting him, demanding revenge for their deaths. David tried to get rid of this curse, but the more he tried to forget about the asylum, the more it came back to him. One day, in a dream, a ghostly woman in a white dress appeared to David, whispering mysterious words to him. and pointing to an ancient journal of patient records. She said that the answer to his problem lay in the secrets of the asylum, and that he needed to return there to unlock all the secrets and free the souls of the dead. David woke up in a cold sweat and realized that he would have to face the horrors of the asylum again. He decided to return there to unravel the mysteries and free himself from the curse that haunted him. When he crossed the threshold of the asylum again, he felt that the air was filled with a dark energy. The walls shook, shadows played on the walls, and the ghostly figures of the patients became more and more real and alive. David realized that something far scarier than he could have imagined awaited him. As he moved through the corridors, David began to encounter unusual phenomena and unexplained events. Antique lamps lit up on their own, doors opened and closed for no apparent reason, and rustles and groans filled the air. He felt as if the asylum was coming to life and calling to him. As he approached the room where he had first seen the ghostly woman in the white dress, David felt that he was surrounded by the souls of dead patients who were demanding revenge and release. Fear gripped him, but he could not back down. At that moment, the ghostly woman appeared before him again, whispering cryptic words and pointing to an ancient journal of patient records. She said that the answer to his problem lay deep in the corridors of the asylum. David began to study the journal entries, immersing himself in the world of madness and fear that the patients described. He discovered that many of them had been victims of experiments and had tried to escape from the asylum, but they had all died in mysterious circumstances. He realized that the secret of the asylum lay in the sinister experiments conducted here many years ago. Suddenly, David heard footsteps behind him and turned around. Before him stood the ghostly form of a patient whose soul was bound to the asylum. The patient whispered to him that only he could solve the mysteries and free their souls from eternal suffering. With each step, each discovery, David came closer to unraveling the mystery of the asylum. He faced unexpected twists of fate, terrible moments and trials that tested his will and courage. But he did not give up, realizing that only he can bring release and peace to the souls of the dead. Finally, after many trials, David solved the last mystery of the asylum. He freed the souls of the dead patients and was able to rid himself of the curse that haunted him. However, when David returned to the world, he realized that the curse he had broken had freed the souls of those who were chained to the asylum. But in return, he would remain a guardian of this dark place. His fate was tied to the asylum, and he was to guard its secrets for the rest of his life. Now, David has become part of the dark history of the asylum, becoming a guardian of eternal peace and vengeance who will forever be remembered by those who dared to disturb the peace of this dark place. Interesting story. Let's hope David doesn't show up at our door like the woman in white, so we can set him free. Because it won't be the same David. We know from this story. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget to like. Let's help David.